The fact that President Biden signed this bill is good news for Social Security recipients and for SNAP beneficiaries, but it's also big news for the U.S. economy. And I want to address what's going on here because over the past few days, I've received dozens of emails and dozens of messages regarding the latest bill. And I want to address one thing. This was a good bill. Okay? It was a good bipartisan bill. It wasn't a partisan bill. It wasn't all for Democrats. It wasn't all for Republicans. It was a good bipartisan bill and probably the best bill that they could have negotiated. Neither party got what they wanted. Some didn't even get a voice in this entire bill. But overall, it saved the U.S. from defaulting on our debts for the first time in the nation's history. This debt ceiling bill was a good bill. Now, however, there are many issues that go along with this bill. The fact is that there are still a lot of issues, and these issues actually mean this is good news because this means this is the start of a more good news for Social Security and SNAP recipients. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, there was no good news in this bill for Social Security. Well, according to reports, that was done on purpose. It was done on purpose so that they could then go and negotiate a separate bill for Social Security. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, this wasn't good news for SNAP beneficiaries because of the work requirements. And according to a couple reports, yes, it's going to provide immediate issues. We're going to see, some trouble, for people that were receiving benefits. But in the long run, this is going to be good news because according to these reports, we are now starting to see more lawmakers propose or start the process of proposing other bills that will bring back additional increases. So again, more good news for both Social Security and for SNAP beneficiaries. Now, I know you're probably wondering how we are getting good news here. And I will get to that in just a moment. First, all I ask is if you can do one thing, takes 2 seconds, go ahead and hit that like button. I do spend hours and hours doing research, and this just helps out the video. So first off, thank you guys for doing that. Now, over the last week, the House of Representatives and the Senate both passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act. This ultimately suspended the debt ceiling. Yes, there were some things that were, had to be done. So some deals that had to be made. For instance, work requirements. We now know the IRS is going to lose $20 billion. It's going to be $10 billion, in 2024. $10 billion in 2025 from their additional $80 billion in funding. That's there. We also know the student loan payment pause cannot be extended any longer. So that's done. There's some things that had to be agreed upon. But President Biden agreed. He approved. This was the best bill they could get. He was one of the negotiators. And he signed the bill because he knew this is the best bill possible. Now, just this morning, we got some reports that nearly 750,000 adults could lose SNAP benefits simply because of this debt ceiling bill. Not only that, but for every dollar in SNAP, it generates about $1.50 to $1.80 into our economy. That's a huge loss. And losing SNAP benefits will also impact not just the individual, it impacts grocery stores, it impacts the farming sector, and it also impacts trucking. So we could potentially see losses and layoffs here simply because of these moves that were made. That was not the intention, but that was one of the things that we knew could potentially happen. And according to reports, that is very likely at this time. Now, this is why lawmakers are now looking at different ways to increase benefits to Social Security recipients, but increase benefits to the masses without cutting benefits to the few. Now, I bring this up because we see this all the time. We see where certain lawmakers propose, well, let's give some benefits to these people. Let's give benefits to the ones that are really hurting. And in order to give additional benefits there, we could potentially cut benefits from the people that don't really need it. So this is part of the problem. This is where lawmakers say, we just can't do it. We cannot cut benefits to the masses and only give benefits to the few. Okay? What we need to do, and we cannot give benefits to the masses and cut them from the few either. So this creates a major problem. How do we go about this? Well, this is where the new discussions are starting to come in. According to recent reports, Social Security has been the biggest issue all year. Everybody wants to know exactly when Social Security is going to be addressed. How are they going to ensure that Social Security remains solvent past 2034? And what is Congress going to do in order to achieve this money? Where are they going to find it? Well, this report indicates that the good news is that by addressing everything but Social Security and actually negatively impacting SNAP in this debt ceiling bill, it now puts more pressure on Congress to find a solution to those two problems. This report goes on to say, this was by design. Lawmakers did this by design. They did address Social Security. They did address increases to SNAP. They addressed these things in the negotiation. Democrats did. And ultimately, neither one got addressed because negotiators purposely didn't address Social Security because it was too big of a problem. It was too big to combine with the debt ceiling. Social Security on its own is a massive issue that has to be addressed. So was the debt ceiling. They could not put the two together because chances are it would never get voted on. So in order to save the U.S. economy and hopefully, well, not hopefully, but they are going to address Social Security at some point. But the big one was if we, and again, I hate to say we were close to a default because we really were, but at the same time, everybody said we were never going to get there. But if we defaulted on our debts, keep in mind, we're talking about Social Security here. Okay? Your payments were sitting over here, right? We had to pass this bill because if we didn't pass the debt ceiling bill, your payments would not have been coming. They would have been delayed. So if your payments were delayed because of not passing the debt ceiling, that hurt Social Security recipients. So guess what happened? We had to pass the debt ceiling. That debt ceiling bill ensured that your Social Security payments would not be delayed. So that's the only thing that got really included into this. Everything else, and everybody else was saying that Social Security is too big of an issue to combine it with the debt ceiling. There was no way they would be able to pass it on time, and so ultimately fighting for Social Security would have hurt Social Security recipients in the meantime. So because of that, they decided it was done on purpose. Do not address Social Security now. We will figure this out in the future. So they are now saying that Social Security has to be its own bill, or it has to be the pillar of the bill. As to whether or not they decide to add different provisions onto the bill later, that would be a different story. But the good news is that Social Security is being considered. It's just a matter of time and when this is going to be considered. And I bring this up because, and I told you guys this before, that the debt ceiling bill had to be negotiated, had to be passed. We had to, get rid of that crisis. The next issue is, okay, how do we go about, figuring out how much money we are actually going to spend this next year? This is where the appropriations committees are coming in, and they're going to determine, okay, we are going to cut benefits here and here and here, and we're going to provide a little bit of a bump here and here, and that should be adequate. But again, it's going to take some time. So that's going to be one of the next thing, is to make sure we have our fiscal year 2024 spending. That bill has to be negotiated and passed. Once that is done, it doesn't mean we can't negotiate Social Security now or SNAP benefits now. It just means there's a good chance we are not going to see anything happen until after. But again, it really doesn't matter, because even if a bill is passed today or tomorrow, it would not even go into effect until 2024 at the earliest, at least according to reports. So that's what we know regarding Social Security and SNAP. That is what's happening for the U.S. economy. Hopefully we get more information, but the good news is President Biden signed this bill not because he didn't feel like there was other things that were important, but according to these reports, he signed it because the other things were so important. He had to ensure that the U.S. economy stayed strong, Social Security recipients continued to get their payments, SNAP beneficiaries continue to receive their funding, and we move forward. So we will see what happens, but that is what we know at this time. Again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I will see you guys on the next one.